Hey everyone, just wanted to quickly go over what was the correct solution. We looked at two samples. One had D and E as the answer, another one had 0. We're going to look at what the answer is now. So you were asked to find, for the question number 1, you were asked to find what was the instantaneous rate of change of this function, right, at the point x equals 0. So instantaneous rate of change means, number 1, you got to pull up that formula. We have an instantaneous rate of change formula. I should not see you substituting a number. That's not what we're doing. It's asking for instantaneous rate of change, and it should look like the steps that were given to you in the examples. Okay, so we have this formula. There are two things we don't know. I don't know what f of x plus h is, and maybe I don't know what f of x is. No, don't be fooled. We do have f of x. It's right here. F of x is x squared minus 5. We're going to go ahead and write it down in our scratch work. Right here. Sorry guys, this is not following my my thing, my pattern that I had for it. But oh well, I'm going to go ahead and project the steps and you guys can follow along, please. Okay, so I do have f of x. It's x squared minus 5. That's my scratch work. Notice how f of x became x squared minus 5. That's because I substituted that in. The next thing, I need to figure out what is f of x plus h. F of x plus h, if you go to the side and do some work, is basically x plus h, but you're substituting that into the function where x is at. Notice how it looks the same like f of x, but instead of x, it's x plus h squared, then minus 5. Now what you do here, so be careful. Whenever you see a binomial that's being squared, you have to either do rainbow method or box method. So using the box method, if you remember, x plus h squared, that's the same thing as multiplying x plus h times x plus h. So here we have x times h times h, which is h squared, x times x, which is x squared, and x times h, which is xh. You add the diagonals up and you get x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Notice that's exactly what I got as my first three terms. See, that comes from box method, and then I bring down that minus 5. The minus 5 is part of your equation. That's why we have to bring it down. All right, so once we had that simplified, I went ahead and substituted what f of x plus h is in right here. So this is where that comes from this side work. The next thing I did from this step 1 to step 2 right here in my steps is I distributed the minus sign. So then it's minus x squared, and then negative times negative is a positive, so it's plus 5. The next thing you're going to do is add like terms. So we have minus 5 plus 5, that's going to go away. We have x squared minus x squared, that goes away. So what you're left over with is essentially this part, 2xh plus h squared all over h. And if you remember, and we did this in the video, you could factor out the h from the top like this. Once you do that, you cancel out the h's. You can do that now because h divided by h is 1, so that goes away. And what you have now is the denominator goes away. You have the limit as h approaches 0 of 2x plus h. Now we can go ahead and substitute. Again, if you remember, we couldn't plug in h equals 0 into this equation yet because there was division by 0. But now that we got rid of the h at the bottom, we can now plug in h equals 0. So 2x plus 0 is just 2x. Lastly, we're going to take the x value that they said at x equals 0, and we're going to plug in 0 because they said x is 0. Sometimes x could be 1, it could be 2, whatever it is. That's in step 6 is what you're plugging in. 2 times 0 is 0. So it looks like sample 2 was correct. The answer was 0. So now what you're going to do is you're going to edit your response for problem number 1, and I need you to fix up problem number 2 for full credit. Submit this into Google Classroom by midnight. All right, everybody. See ya.